Hey everybody, Mr. Youngman here, and today we're going to be taking a look at how to get started with our first Photoshop redo assignment. To get started, we're going to need to open Adobe Photoshop. Some of you may have it on your taskbar at the bottom of your screen here, but others of you will have to search for it. To search for a program, we're just going to go up to the magnifying glass at the top right of the screen, and we're going to type in Photoshop. Be careful of the spelling here. If it doesn't come up at first, it's probably because we have a typo in our search. I'm going to go ahead and select Adobe Photoshop 2021. This is the version of the program that we are currently using. Some of us might be on 2022, and more of us might be on a different version in the future, but most of us are on version 2021. Once Adobe Photoshop loads up, and it may take a while on our lab computers, we're going to come to a screen that looks something like this. You can kind of ignore everything at the bottom here. All we're looking for is the Create New button on the left. I'm going to click that now. In here, we're going to be able to set up our Photoshop document. Now, we're going to do a document size of, let's say, 2,000 pixels wide by 1,000 pixels high. Depending on what Photoshop tutorial we're doing, these sizes may be different. But something that is going to be very, very important to check is that we have pixels selected. Most of the documents that we're going to be creating in this lab are going to be made using pixels. If we were to accidentally select inches and do our 2,000 in here, 2,000 inches is really, really big. So let's make sure we have that set to pixels, 2,000 pixels wide by 1,000 pixels high. We can leave our resolution at 72 and all of these settings at their default. I'm just going to go ahead and press Create. This will open up our basic Adobe Photoshop interface. If your screen doesn't look like this, that's okay, we can fix it. First, we're going to go up to Window at the top of our screen, and then go to Workspace, and we will go to Essentials, if we're not already, and then we'll go to Window again, down to Workspace, and we'll do Reset Essentials. That will get us a screen that looks just like the normal Photoshop interface. I'm going to go ahead and resize my window a little bit. As I can see, it's being cut off at the bottom here. So I'm just going to grab my corner, bring this up a little bit, just to make sure I can see all my buttons at the bottom here. This is a pretty important step that we're going to want to make sure we're taking on all computers. It's very easy for students to get lost if they don't have access to these buttons at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and create our first piece of text inside of Adobe Photoshop. I'm going to select our text tool. That's the T icon on here on the left. And we want the horizontal type tool. If we hold down on any of these buttons that have a little triangle in the bottom right corner, that means that there's a bunch of different tools hiding inside of here. So we're going to hold down on that T and select horizontal type tool. For the sake of this assignment, it's going to be very important to note that there's a chance that your text tool may look different. That's because we have a different tool selected in this menu. So if it looks anything like a T, that's probably the tool you want. We'll just hold down on the T and go to horizontal type tool. With our horizontal type tool selected, we're going to click on our Photoshop document in the center. And this will automatically create text that says lorem ipsum. This is a placeholder text that's often used in graphic design. When the words are highlighted like this, it means that we can type some new words and it will create new words. Now, our words on here are incredibly small, so we're going to need to go ahead and fix them. To change the size of text inside of Photoshop, we can select this drop-down arrow at the top, and I will go with 72. And I've made a simple mistake here. We need to first select our text before we can change our size. To select our text, we're just going to double-click on the T icon in the layer panel in the bottom right of our screen. Double-clicking on that T will highlight our text, and then I'll do that same exact thing that I was trying before, selecting this drop-down, going to 72, and you'll see that it successfully made it bigger. If we want to change the size even farther, we can hold our mouse down on these double T's, slide it to the right to make our words bigger and let go, or slide it to the left to make them smaller and let go. I'm just going to go to right around 125 here. It doesn't have to be exact, it's close enough. Next, I'm going to select our center alignment here. If you don't see this, it's because we've accidentally switched tools, so make sure you are on your text tool. And we're going to select center alignment. From here, we're going to switch to our move tool. Our move tool is located at the top of our tool panel. And if we start to move our words, you'll see that these purple lines appear. And these purple lines are just kind of helping us to find the center of our document. Once it makes a cross like this, we know that we've identified the sweet spot of that's where the center of our document is. I'm just going to let go. We're close to the end of our tutorial here, believe it or not. We just have a few more things that we're going to do. First, we're going to click on our text layer in the Layers panel. Then we're going to hold Control, click on it one more time, let go of Control, and we're going to go down to Blending Options. Or sorry, Layer Styles is the word I'm looking for. So we're looking for Layer Styles in this menu. It's hiding in here somewhere. Where are you? And blending options is at the top. So again, I'll have to correct myself here. We are looking for blending options at the very tippy top. I'll click on blending options and that will bring up our layer styles. So Photoshop kind of uses these terms interchangeably. So you can tell that it's pretty easy to get confused, but they are really the same thing, layer styles and blending options. Now that we've selected our blending options, we're going to go to color overlay. And we can move this window just out of the way by grabbing the white part at the top. And you'll see that just turning on color overlay has changed the color of my words. If we click on this box right here, it'll bring up a color selection screen. I'm going to slide my hue, that's this bar on the right, all the way up to the right. I'm just going to click and drag this circle all the way to the top right. That's going to make a really bright red. I'm going to press OK. The second thing we're going to do to this document is put on a stroke. I'm going to click on stroke right here. And it doesn't look like it's done anything, but that's because our stroke is really, really small. I'm going to slide our stroke slider to the right to, let's call it 3. You'll see that that's put a black outline around our words here. If we go to our color box right here, and again, click on the colored box, you'll see that gives us that same options we saw earlier. This time I'm going to go to blue, and again, select all the way in that top right, and then press OK. Now this doesn't look very good for readability, but the whole point of this exercise is just to make sure we know how to find our color overlay, how to find our stroke, and how to create new text inside of Adobe PhotoShop. I'm going to go ahead and press OK to save our changes to our text. Now that we've saved the changes to our text, we're going to just go ahead and turn in this document. We always save Photoshop work in 2 different ways. First, we're going to save it as a Photoshop document by going to File at the top of the screen and selecting Save As. And if it asks us, we want to save this onto our computer. My screen has bypassed that, but we want to make sure we are selecting Save on your computer. From here, we'll just go to Desktop, select our folder with our name on it. There we are. And if you have a folder in here called Photoshop already, that would be a perfect place to put this. I'm just going to call this document PS00 dash my last name. We're going to go ahead and hit save and then OK. This is the first way we save it, and this is what will allow us to open up our document again later if we ever needed to make changes. The second way we save this is just like inside of Premiere Pro, exporting it. Exporting is really meant for sharing this document around. We'll go to File up at the top and select Export, Export As, and then we'll go to Format at the top right and select JPEG, JPG. After this, we'll select Export. And once again, it will ask us to save it. So I'm going to go into my desktop, find my folder with my name on it, go to my Photoshop folder, and select Save. Now we've just finished creating our PSD document and our JPG document. For the most part, when we're completing Photoshop work, the document that you're expected to turn in is the JPG file. You can tell which one is which by looking for the extension of the file at the end of the file name. I'm going to go ahead and pull open those files that we just created by going into my folder, going into Photoshop. You'll see we have ps00-youngman.jpg and ps00-youngman.psd. So the file that we'll want to turn in is the JPG, the JPEG image, and that is the version of the file that can be easily shared. That's going to wrap it up for this one. Thank you so much for following along, everybody, and I will see you all back in class. Bye now.